So I'm going to this is basically your show today,
Mine.
and I'm your guest.
I am the show host.
You're going to explain what all of this stuff is. I do know because I've had experience with this. I've watched you do it. I've even done the chicken or the ducks basically.
Yeah,
which
but
is the
and
same
the
thing.
chickens, because you've basically taken over my chicken house.
Yeah, once they're grown, we're going to talk about getting them to that point.
Yes.
And my first question with all this, before I let you get started, is my office going to be turned into a brooder again?
No, because I have my craft room, and that's plenty big, and I have electrical out there, so I can actually put the brooder out on the desk
Good.
in my
So I
craft
don't
room.
have to sit in here and hear chirp, 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 chirp. So I guess before we get into all this, explain, since I just brought that up, what is a brooder?
So a brooder that's where your baby chickens are going to live from the time you bring them home until they're about 5 weeks old. So when they're about 5 weeks old, that's when they can go outside. But until then, when they get them and they're cute little yellow fluffy, they're so soft.
Yeah, for about a week.
Yeah, and then they start getting ugly. But
And then they just poop and eat and yap.
and they can't tolerate cold temperatures. So your brooder is we use actually a plastic bin with a lid that you so awesomely made, so they can't jump out of it.
I was going to bring that in, but we don't have room. But basically, it's probably 3 feet long by a foot and a half wide.
Yeah.
Just one of those plastic storage bins, and I cut a hole in the top of it and put a mesh screen in it, so you can put the light on the outside, and it goes into you can attach it to the outside of the bin, and it goes inside. But the chickens can't get out once they get older. We had the ducks in that, and they were poking their heads up after 4 weeks or so.
Yeah, they were huge.
Poking their heads out. It's kind of funny, but but so I mean there's a few different options that you can do for that too, right? I think that's the best option. One, because we already have those bins.
Right.
So if you've got something, you can keep them in, but you've got to make sure since they're going to be in your home, you don't want something like a crate, because they're going to make a mess.
Yeah. Now, I will say that baby chickens, so the chicks, are a lot cleaner than the ducks. The ducks were horribly messy when they were babies. They were awful.
Well, ducks are messy anyway. They just slop. They get into the water, they play with the water, and then they go right into the food and get the food soaked. They were basically every day.
You had to change the entire thing.
Yeah. All their bedding, everything.
And the baby chicks are pretty easy. They're real little. I mean, they'll fit in your hand when you get them. So we're actually getting 10 on March. I think they're being born March 6th, so they'll ship them out March 7th.
Which means I got to do some updating on the chicken house. We've got plenty of room for them, but we need places for them to roost and all that stuff.
You got about 6 weeks after we get them to
remodel. Get in the chicken coop and remodel. First, I got to clean all the crap out, and maybe I'll put on my RZ mask because I don't want to be breathing that crap.
Yeah, that's just bad to breathe. But
so I guess you want to just get started from where you started, point A, and work your way through it. I'll just let you go, and I'll ask questions along the way that I think might be pertinent to somebody who's listening who's never done it.
So that's what this whole thing is aimed for. If you've thought about having chickens and you're just not really sure where to get started, there's a lot of good information available online. There is actually 3 different websites that I go to a lot, and actually one of them we bought the ducks from, and we're buying the chickens from. So the one that we go to that I go to, I should say, all the time, and Tasia does, is Chickens for Backyards. And they are basically a hatchery, and they have tons of different breeds that you can, pick from no matter what kind of chicken you want. Or they have turkeys, they have geese, and they have ducks.
Turkeys? That'd be kind of cool to get a turkey.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to get a couple turkeys too.
We're gonna turn our backyard into an aviary.
And that'd be cool. I like birds. Another place is My Pet Chicken. That's a really fun website.
Food aviary, though. Okay. Not just birds, food.
You're still on one thing, and I'm going down to the next already.
Go ahead.
So the next one is My Pet Chicken, and they have a lot of information if you're just getting started with chickens or thinking about it.
Chickens are not pets.
I think they are.
Just saying.
Just don't name them. If you're planning on eating them, don't name them.
Don't even think of them as pets. It's food.
And the next one is the Cackle Hatchery, and this is it's a family-run Hatchery, and they've been in business since 1936. They had a lot of good information. I've never purchased anything from them, but they had a lot of different things to choose from as well. So if you're just getting started, I would really recommend going to one of those websites, or just do a Google search for raising chickens so you can see what's involved in it. And then once you decide, okay, this is something, we can do, and I want to move forward with it, then you've got to figure out where you're going to get your chickens. If you can go to these places and you can buy them online.
I was kind of against that though, and I got outruled or overruled, but because we have a feed store basically right down the street.
Right.
And we could get chicks. I mean, they're all over the place when it comes to...
Well, and that's why I liked, because the first two or three times we bought chickens, we've always just gone to the Big R, picked out some chickens, and brought them home. And that's cool. If that's what you want to do, then do it that way.
It saves on shipping, because how much was shipping for these 10 chicks?
I think it was like $20
Blam.
for 10. But you get to pick the thing that's, so yes, you are going to pay for shipping, but you get to pick out the breed that you want. And you get to pick out, so when you go to the Big R or Murdoch's or one of the big box stores that always have chickens at Easter time, baby chicks and stuff, you don't really know what you're getting unless you're like this chicken connoisseur and you know all of the breeds and stuff. I'm not that person. So
you can look at their little pictures and then say, okay, that looks like that one.
It could be this one, but you're not sure. So that's why I liked, and like with Tasia buying the ducks, she bought them online.
So let somebody else do the picking for you.
Right. Well, and then you can choose if you want to have the birds sexed, meaning if you want to make sure that you're going to
not getting roosters.
Right. You want it, if you need to make sure you're getting pullets or, female chickens, then have them sex them. I think it costs $1 extra to have it sexed. Another cool thing about buying them from Chickens for Backyards is they vaccinate them. There's a, and I can't think of it, it's down further in the notes. It's like Merrick's disease or something, and it's like muscle wasting and stuff, and it's once the chicken has it, it'll spread it to your flock, and then you'll lose all your chickens.
So you got to start over.
Yeah.
And one last thing on that before we move on too is another objection I had was, you buy 10 chickens, how many of those chickens are going to make it through the mail, basically?
Yeah.
How much were they a piece?
They were like $4.65 a piece.
So you're losing, if you lose 2 or 3 of them, you're losing $10-15.
But you're not really losing it, because heaven forbid if you get one, you get your order and one of the chickens dies within like the first, I think it's week, they'll replace the chicken.
Will they?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Which is cool. So then the chicks that we're getting, we're getting buff Orpingtons. So remember Dizzy?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have 5 of those, and then we're going to have, and so they're they look blonde.
Yeah, we called her Dizzy because
she looked like a blonde.
Yeah.
But then the other 5 are Plymouth.
She got eaten by something.
Yeah. No, Dizzy
she died, huh?
She
Yeah.
got old. She had like post-traumatic stress disorder, and then after her friend got taken out of the hen house, she never laid another egg.
Yeah, a coyote or something just ripped apart their home.
Yeah. But then, so the barred Plymouth Rock, which are really pretty black and white chickens.
Cool.
So those are what we're getting.
Okay, so we went through purchasing chickens. Now, what's the next part?
So the next thing is, so the one cool thing about when you order them online, you can choose when your chickens are delivered. So they're shipping right now. So if I wanted to, I could get the baby chickens now, but that would be way too soon, in my
Because
opinion.
after 6 weeks, they're going outside.
6 weeks they're going outside.
And it could be 10 below zero.
Yeah, or it could be tons of snow, and then you haven't had a chance to modify or remodel the chicken house. So I plan on ours coming in the beginning of March, but now is the time that I'm planning for that. So now I want to make sure we have everything that we need for when they arrive.
And that's all this stuff on the table, right?
Is. Yeah.
Okay.
So the things that you're going to need is
your
the brooder.
tinfoil hat. Oh,
you're
the brooder.
You're going to need the brooder, which we already talked about. You're going to need my tinfoil hat.
In case you get alien chickens.
Yes. And this is, so the heat lamp goes inside of there.
Is this for when it's hot out?
That's your tinfoil
That's the
hat.
tinfoil
You're
reflector.
Only halfway. So, but what this will do, and I didn't want to put it in, and when you get these, you want to make sure that it's for the bulb size that you're getting. So this was like $9.99. and it included the guard. But this will hold up to a 250 watt bulb, which is what we bought. So then this is the guard that goes on there, and it's got little holes in it. So you can, you'll put this like that, and then that protects it so they can't get next to the heat lamp and burn themselves.
Mm-hmm. And one thing with that too, with the light bulb, with the ducks last time, I remember that the 200, I don't remember what we had, but I know it got too hot at some point. So you've got to move the lamp further and further away from the brooder itself. And at some point, you might even need to go to a lower wattage bulb.
Yeah, because
or just not use it at all.
Right.
At some point, it's going to be about 80 degrees in there anyway, and that's okay.
Yeah, because when you get them home, you want to start out at 95 degrees. So make sure you have a thermometer. That's one thing we don't have in here is a thermometer.
Oh, yeah.
So you do need a thermometer, and you can tell if your chicks are too hot because they'll be staying away from the light, and they'll have their little wings out once they get them.
I took the front porch thermometer off last time.
Yeah.
And stuck it in there, huh?
Yeah. That's
Might be
that
what.
went.
Instead of just going and buying one, I just stole yours.
Thanks. Appreciate it. And then if they're too cold, they'll huddle together. So then you know that they're too cold, so then you got to crank up the heat a little bit, make it a little warmer. If they spread out and they're like hiding from the light, it's too hot.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line of too warm or too hot, but it's not hard to get there.
Yeah, and that's the challenge I had with the ducks. And at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm getting rid of the lamp, and we're going to see how they do.
And they did fine.
Mm-hmm.
But chickens are they take longer to bake, basically, to grow up than ducks do.
Baked chicken is good.
Baked chickies. Another thing that's really important that you should get when you bring your baby chickens home is Electrolyte. And what this is, it's a vitamin electrolyte supplement, and it's good to put this in for like the first week or so. And what you do is you just mix up a gallon of water, put one of these in it, and then that's what you're going to fill their water with. That way you make sure that they're not, they're drinking enough and they're getting what they need.
Is that like baby formula for ducks?
It's kind of like a salt lick for ducks, but or chickens, but you're putting it in the water.
Not ducks.
Not ducks.
I got ducks on the brain.
So this is the bulb that you'll need for your brooder for your heat lamp. I like the red ones because they're pretty. But that's how big the bulb is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big bulb. There's actually smaller ones too that have that same fitting.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be 250 watts. That one, I almost guarantee you, will at some point after a couple weeks is going to be too hot.
Yeah, because it's made for a source of infrared radiation, so heat. But the reason I chose this one is because the glass is designed that if it does get wet, it's shatterproof, so it won't break.
Yeah, which we had that. That happened actually, not while the ducks were in there, but when I moved it, it actually did shatter.
And of course, the most important part, you need your chicken food.
Start and Grow.
Yep, and this is by Purina. When you get your chick feed, you can get medicated or non-medicated. I like to get the medicated kind because I want to do everything we can to keep them healthy and growing well while they're babies.
And we got this small bag, but you're going to need a lot more than that because they eat like crazy.
Yeah, so and then they get messy. They're very, very messy. So I think getting a 50-pound bag of feed is a good way to start. And it's got all of the instructions in the back, tells you what it's got in it. And this one will last us right after we get the chickens because I just noticed the expiration date. Best by 3/24/2016. So by March 24th, we have to use this bag up.
That's the best by date.
Yeah. But it's medicated, so it's got antibiotics in
it. If it's March 26th, then we got a little bit left. I'm using it anyway. I'll wait till you go to work if I have to. I'm not wasting it.
Okay.
They're only chickens. They'll live.
We'll give it to the stupid deer.
Yeah, we'll give it to the chickens outside or something. They'll live.
So these are the different types of waterers and feeder that work good for baby chickens. So the feeder, it's got the little feeding stations on it. This helps to keep it clean so they don't poop in it, because they will.
So they can only get their heads in it. They can't jump on it.
And then you just put the food in here. Maybe screw on the lid, tip it over, and then the food comes down like a gravity feeder. place to put stuff. The water is pretty straightforward too. It's got a little hole that the water comes out of. And put the water in.
And how long will that last, water? Is that a couple days?
I would say probably morning and night you should check it and change it.
Just to make sure?
Yeah, and they will poop in here, remember?
Yeah, it'll get dirty.
They get dirty. So those are important. And it's really, really important to make sure that you keep the feeder clean and the water are clean because they need to have fresh and clean food and water to be good, happy little chickens.
Happy little chickens. Well, and the feeder or the water we have outside, sometimes they'll get on top of that. It's their little perch.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts because then the water's right below it. So I've got to figure out, I've got to put something on top of that where they can still perch on it, but they're not dropping literally crap into the water.
They're not dropping their droppings. One thing we don't have on here and is really important to have for your chickens is the bedding. The large pine shavings work the best. And what we do is put a layer of newspaper down first and then put the shavings on it, and it keeps it nice.
Kind of an absorbent layer.
And then it has almost 2 layers of it so that the liquid will go down into hopefully the newspaper, and then the pine gives them a nice bedding.
Yeah, and you don't have to, when you change that out, you don't necessarily have to change everything out every time.
Right.
You could. It really depends on you.
Yeah.
But you can throw another layer. You can layer it a little bit. You can't do that through the whole 6 weeks or whatever because it's going to be,
and it's going to
stink,
and it's going to be heavy.
Yeah.
So, and one thing that's really good that you can do with that, just take your bin out. If you have a compost pile, you've got chicken poop, which is the green because that's manure, and then you've got the pine shavings, which are brown, and the newspaper, which is brown. So you can go dump that in your compost pile.
Yeah, and that's what I did with the ducks last year, was just dumped it all in the same spot.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind when you're doing considering bedding for your baby chickens is do not use cedar shavings. Cedar is toxic to chickens, so you don't want to use the cedar shavings. Make sure you just get the pine shavings.
And you know what? You don't necessarily have to have a lot of property or anything to raise chickens.
No.
I mean, we're getting 10, but you could get 2 basically.
Yeah, I think.
And have them in your backyard. They're not real loud.
No.
As long as, I guess if your HOA, your neighborhood and all that will let you have it. Chickens don't take up a lot of room, right?
No, chickens are, so I think it's like, well, I can't even remember. I've read, if you go to one of those websites, it'll tell you what the square footages you need for a chicken. But how big is the chicken house you built?
4 by 3, I think, something like that, and then 4 feet tall.
I thought it was like 6 feet long.
It might be. I don't remember.
Like 6 feet by 4 feet or something.
Yeah, it's 6 by 4 and then 4 feet tall.
Yeah. So, and from what I was
reading, and you've got
reading,
here, right?
This is if you have baby chickens, you need 4 inches by 4 inches squared per 25 chicks.
So in your brooder.
Yep. So
So they don't need much
size. They really
don't need much room at all for 25 chickens.
Yeah.
That makes me think of these places that raise the chickens and just a layer of chickens along the floor or in there. Yeah.
But once they get bigger, they do need, I think it's 2 feet by 2 feet or something. So that's why I calculated we could get 10 more chickens to add to the 4 that we already have. Because then our chicken house is big enough for them and it'll accommodate them and everybody will have a space once we put in some more perches.
Yeah, and the chicken boxes on the outside.
Yeah,
so
and we're going to put the laying boxes on the outside. So, but we do need more of those. So
the interior space is more usable space. I do feel like I'm doing a remodel on the damn thing.
You are.
But, we could... literally, I when I was thinking about this, I was like, 10 more chickens, 15 chickens, but they don't need a lot. It's not like they do a lot.
No.
They just peck around, they dig around a little bit. Plus, we've got the run where I open up the gate. They get out during the day.
Yeah, and they have fun.
Do what they want.
And that's what's nice is making sure that your chickens, where you put them, they are going to have access to the outside because they'll be happier. And they actually absorb vitamin D like we do. So that will go into their eggs. So once you start with a couple of chickens, even start with 2 or 3. They don't take very much time. They don't take a lot of upkeep. They're very simple, and I mean they're comical to watch. They're funny. I love watching my chickens. But they'll even stay in the yard because our chickens used to get out because Frisbee would open their gate trying to get their chicken food when we had the horse pen.
Yeah.
And the chickens would be out, and then I would come home and they'd come running. So I mean they do imprint on you, and they're smart and they're sweet little animals.
Yeah.
Just don't name them if you're going to use them for food. We don't really use ours for food that much.
No, because we can't have roosters.
No.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But if you do get a rooster, like we did, it's, it's just got to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, you've got to kind of time it where you want it to be old enough to where it's mature, and it's going to have meat on it. It's going to taste good, but not so old that it's waking your neighbors up and
crowing.
Even though we're out in BFE, we still have restrictions on what types of animals we can have. Kind of dumb to me, but it happens, and that's it could happen. Is basically, even though it says that they're female chicks or whatever, it could turn into a rooster, and then you just have to handle the situation. But it was cool because I learned how the processing the bird works, and it's not as easy as you would think. The whole, you tried to kill it, but you weren't firm enough.
I wasn't strong enough. It was
So
like
then it
my
was like,
wrist,
oh,
I couldn't
no.
do it. And I was like, Dale, you got to chop his head off. I can't do it.
Yeah, so but after that you've got to, the feathering it, and there's a few different methods for feathering it, whether it's defeathering it.
Put some feathers on it.
But it's a little bit tedious, but it's not that bad. It's cool to learn how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can have roosters, it's a fantastic food source. You couldn't have, well, I guess you could have too many at some point. You'd have to have a lot of property, but we eat so much chicken. I mean, you could eat chicken 2-3 times a week. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that you could have enough roosters to be like, oh, I've got too many. So, but that's up to you. A lot of people do that. They'll raise them, they'll breed them, they'll have chickens, they'll have eggs, they'll have rooster. We just don't have that much room.
Nope.
Well, we do have the room. We don't have the amenities because I don't want to build it. So before we close out, you wanted to get into do's and don'ts, right?
Yeah.
Where is that on
And
our...
that's basically, this is safe handling of chickens, or safe, being around your chickens and stuff. Biggest thing is, just like with anything else, anytime you pick up a baby chick and they're adorable, or you touch anything, changing their food water, make sure you wash your hands.
Yeah, you can still get salmonella.
Yeah, so you want to stay
live
as
ones.
clean as you possibly can. Keep them as clean as you possibly can. But always use soap and water, and don't touch your mouth. Don't put the baby chickens up to your mouth. If you have small children, you need to be really careful and supervise them when they're with the baby chicks, because how many things do they touch? Kiddos.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, so you got to make sure that they wash their hands afterwards, because they can get sick too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them just run around in your house. They are adorable, but don't let them run around your house, and because they're gonna poop. And especially, it's dirty. So just keep them in their brooder.
The kids or the chickens?
The chickens.
Oh, okay.
Don't snuggle them. Don't kiss them. You can pet them, but then make sure that you wash your hands and don't eat around them as well.
Okay. We're still talking about chickens, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the don'ts?
Those were the don'ts.
Oh, the do's.
Yes. Do's and don'ts. It was kind of in between.
Oh, you just covered everything while I'm sitting here paying attention to you, not reading
yeah,
everything.
because you're like paying attention to me really well.
Don't let livestock inside the house.
I already said that.
Even though if you could, you'd bring the horses inside.
I would, because it's cold outside and they want to come in too.
If we had a miniature donkey, he'd be sitting next to me watching TV.
Yeah, like that, like the Amazon commercial.
I'd make him wear a diaper, though. I'm not picking up donkey poo.
Well, he's walked in it, so now you let him in the house and he's walking around in it.
Not if he lives here.
Oh, okay.
I'll give him some donkey booties. He can wear some little donkey booties in the
That's
house.
a completely different show.
But, okay, I guess we're done with this. In the future, as it gets closer to spring, as we get these little chicks, maybe we'll do a show on different types of breeds, what to do after, and maybe even a little bit more detail about their living situation and what you need. There's a bunch of different options. You can buy the chicken houses or the chicken habitats, whatever they're called. We did that the first year. I think we paid $400, right?
I think it was
And
something like that. It was a rip off.
It was because granted they're nice, but they're made out of basically balsa wood and netting, and it lasted about a year and a half. But once the predator came, it was cake for him to get in there. So that's why we had an old dog that she died, so we took the old outside dog run that is chain link fence, and I built a house to go inside that. That way it's an extra layer of protection.
It's like a chicken prison.
It is, basically. So far so good too. Nothing has gotten in there, but I don't think anything has really tried.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've sniffed around and figured out they couldn't, but if something tried, a coyote or something, it's possible. I mean, animals are pretty creative. But there's also the little yard tractors where you can actually let them out during the day, let them go through your yard without tearing up one certain spot.
Because they will if you let them.
They'll scrape the ground, they'll root and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and they will destroy like if you have a backyard and you have a nice pretty sod or green grass. If you keep them in one area for too long, they will destroy it, and you will not have any green grass growing where you have the chickens, if that's where they live.
And the ducks are even worse because they're just messy. They get water all over the place, and then they'll actually eat the dirt. I don't know if they're getting the vitamins and stuff out of it, but they'll dig little holes in the ground.
So they're aerating it.
Yeah, and fill it up with water, except they're beak-sized holes, and then they'll swish through the water, and it's like, what are you guys are eating dirt? But yeah, they're messy, and then plus their big fat feet, their webbed feet, they just make it a swamp.
Yeah, but they're really cute. They are cute.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. Be cuter if I could let the chickens take over in there, but we'll just wait and see what happens. I'm not gonna do anything, but anyway, I think we're done with this. So let's wrap this up and get.